Welcome to another episode of Real Talk for Coaches, the podcast where we explore the trends, techniques, and transformative power of coaching. I am your host, Dr. Dawn Reid, and joining me is my co-host, Coach Will. And we're going to be talking about today the art of coaching the whole person. And this is such an important competency, and I'm excited to talk about it. We're going to really explore what coaching the whole person mean and really dive into what it means when you're not coaching the person. All right, Coach Will, how you doing today? Are you doing well?
Yep, doing good, doing good. And you?
Awesome. You know what? It's been a day. It's been a day.
Yes.
But I'm good. No complaints. Not complaining. Although I might need a coach after all this.
Good. You know?
But anyway, we'll talk later.
Yep.
But no, all is good. So the whole person. So one of the things that I'm going to be introducing is the Jasari Queli coaching approach, which is my proprietary coaching approach, and how it integrates with coaching the whole person. So when we talk about Jasari Kweli, it is a Swahili
Mhm.
word. And actually, I've heard, people from Africa or certain regions of Africa name their children either Jasari or
Yeah,
Kweli.
Quelle.
Yep, Kweli. So Jasari means courage, right? And it's important in the coaching session for our clients to have courage, to be vulnerable, to be their authentic selves. And then Quele is more about truth for our clients to tell their truth, their authentic truth about what they want, who they are, where they're going. And so Jasari Quilly takes that focus, and then the process through facilitating Jasari Quilly is really through two of my models, Brave and Cat, and we'll talk about that as we have a conversation further. But yes, so in this session, we're going to explore those items. And the first topic is really the power of person centered coaching. So when you hear person centered coaching, what does that mean to you? What comes up to you?
To me, it's more of like focusing on the inner you. I mean, mentally, it's focusing on the inner you. The real reason, like, okay, let's get to the main reason you're here. I mean, it could be it could be a number of reasons why you're here, but let's focus on the main reason. Like, what's the core of this? Let's try to get to uh the core of why you're here. That's what I first thing I think of when I see the phrase, power person centered coaching.
Thank you for sharing that because part of person centered coaching is understanding the thing on the thing. Why is the person here? And it's also understanding the difference between trying to fix a problem and trying to coach the person, right? We want to make sure that as coaches, we're not focused on the client's problem. We're focused on their feelings, their values, their beliefs, their emotions, their experience and what's generating the motivation and the energy around the agenda that they want to achieve.
Yeah, because one of the things it's easy, like when you listen to somebody saying, well, this is why I'm here. And for you as a person, you may be in your mind, you're thinking, well, why don't you just do this? And this will solve your whole thing. But your solution, first of all, you have to let them come to their own solution because your solution for a problem may not be necessarily their solution. It may work, it may not work for them.
Exactly. And that's that person centered. Because if you are focused on in your head as a coach, why don't you just do this to your point,
Hmm.
right? Then you're not person centered. You are problem centered. You want to know how do we fix this? And everybody who know me knows that I'm big on not my dishes, not my sink. I don't need to fix it. You are a healthy adult. You are capable of fixing your own stuff. My goal is How do I show up for you? How do I partner with you to help you determine what you
Mhm.
want? Right. And that's really that person centered focus is I'm centered on you.
Yeah, and I think part of coaching is also getting them to realize that you are not there to fix the problem. You are there to help them work through fixing it,
Yes.
in their own way.
On their own, for themselves, right, in their
Uh-huh.
own way. Exactly. Very key. And that goes into some of the power of person-centered coaching and some of the components that come up. So one, like I said before, is understanding the difference between person development and fixing the problem. We're focused on person development. The second thing is radical candor. And when we talk about radical candor, I did not coin that term. Kim Scott, great book. You can get it on where books are sold. And she she dives deep into what it is. And so it really is about bringing honesty, transparency, but empathy into the coaching session with your client. So when we talk about being authentic and being true, like being able to call your client out on their bullshit. Hey, I understand that that's what you're feeling, or, I can see and sense that you're feeling X, but what's the real thing? Or even saying, because I've done this in my coaching sessions, I'll go, that sounds like bullshit to me. What's the real thing we talking about here? You know? And so being able to bring that honesty into the coaching session, you are coaching the person and not the problem, because you're also calling them out on things that they're not willing to even be honest with on their own, right?
Can we get into the brave and cat method of things?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I have 1,001 acronyms for
Mhm,
everything.
mhm, mhm.
So yeah, so the CAT, CAAT, this model is used in conjunction with Jasari Queli, and so it's about courageous curiosity. So on the aspect of the coach is you have to be courageous in your curiosity. Just like when I just said I'm calling my client out on their bullshit, right? If I'm hearing the client kind of like, they are so not being honest, you know what? I'm not hearing honesty. Tell me what the truth is about what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Right? And then even saying, you're saying this, but I'm hearing that. How accurate is that?
Mhm.
Right? The A, authentic alignment. How does this situation, what you're saying, what you're feeling, what you're telling me, aligns with your true self? Like, how are you honoring who you are as a person? And then agility and growth, adapting our approach. We help facilitate the coaching process. So again, I'm straight no chaser. I always tell my clients that when they're coaching with me. But sometimes I have to adapt my approach, because sometimes people aren't ready to hear the truth about themselves.
Right.
And it's not my place to force them or tell them this is what's true about them. And then there's truth, that's your T, truth and transparency. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to hold space for the truth. I'm going to hold space for transparency. I'm going to call out the truth as I see it. I'm going to ask the client, what are they seeing? What are they feeling? How are they defining truth? And helping them, holding space, psychological safety in that space so that my clients can tell the truth.
Mhm.
And then we talk about brave very quickly. The B stands for boundaries, making sure that one, there's boundaries in the coaching session itself, that I'm not crossing a boundary. Especially when it comes to holding space for my clients' vulnerability or going in a space that they don't want to explore. Like I mind my P's and Q's. But also making sure I'm curious about how my clients are honoring their boundaries, their truth, right? The R is respect. I'm honoring my clients' wisdom, their knowledge, their experience, honoring their feelings, right? I'm respecting who they are as a person. And I'm also listening. How are they respecting themselves? How are they showing up authentic? Which leads into the A, authenticity. And then we have voice, V. How do my clients show up? How are they inspiring, empowering? How are they using their voice? And me taking notice, am I hearing them use their voice? Am I holding space for them to use their voice? And finally, E, empowerment. Do they feel empowered? And if they're not, getting curious around how can I help them feel empowered? What do they need to feel empowered? And making sure that we are exploring what they want and need to be empowered once the coaching session is over. So those are how those two frameworks come into play when we really explore Jasari Queli, but also just holding that space for our clients to be their authentic self as we coach them, the person, as they show up.
Okay. So now I'm going to ask the same question I asked before on one other model. Do you have a favorite between the two?
Brave.
And why is Brave your favorite one?
I feel like Brave taps into trauma informed and life informed coaching. I feel like Brave really does allow the client to be their authentic self and to show vulnerability. And I'll be honest with you, you have to be brave. It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to admit, I need to change in this area. Or, wow, I'm not being accountable. I'm not honoring myself. I'm not showing up my authentic self. You have to have courage for that. So that's why I like Brave because it taps into those aspects of who the person is.
Okay. All right. And as we were taught as kids growing up, it's not always what you say, but how you say it. Do you find that sometimes
Yes.
you have to, well, I'm sure that is, but do you find that like how do you know when you have to take a certain approach with a certain client?
You'll see how the client responds to your questions. So, for example, in a mentoring session with one of my coaching clients, um, we was going over her recording, and I noticed she had asked a question and then made a statement, and that statement, the client's energy shifted, and then they kind of went like this, like, Imma wait for you to tell me. Since your response was more telling me what I shouldn't feel, Imma just sit here and wait for you to tell me. So, hearing or listening to what the client didn't say verbally, but their body language, their energy, how it shifted to the weight of what the coach had stated, that was the indicator.
Okay.
And they stopped listening at the 3rd level, which we talked about in a prior segment, and they were more focused on what as a coach, what they were feeling in that moment. So they were no longer person-centered or coaching the person. They were coaching for their own performance.
So one other thing I see that we had talked about is using cat to stay present and using brave to maintain focus. Now, are there times when you use them interchangeably?
Absolutely. So, for example, there are opportunities when you want to kind of combine some of the models, right? Or the approaches. It's probably better to call them
Mhm.
approaches. So for example, to ask our client, what truth are you avoiding? Again, that's some radical candor for you. And that's also holding space for them to tell their truth, which is Jasari Queli, right? But it's also cat because cat allows them to be courageous and to be authentic and understand, well, what am I not honoring about myself? So that's one example. If you were to combine Cat, Brave, and Jasari Queli, what does radical authenticity look like in this situation? That's kind of combining everything, right? So there's always opportunity to combine, interchange, and modify the approaches so that it fits the needs of your client. And it shows up in the types of questions and or activities that you're using during the coaching session.
Mhm. So, like, what are like when we're looking at this, like, we can use silence going back to, I think, something that we discussed in episode 2. Silence can also be used
Mhm.
within these two different models, the cat and the brave. How will we use silence in,
Mhm.
in, in that as well?
Absolutely. And again, another great question. It really does depend on what's happening with the client. So let's say we ask the client, what are you avoiding? Right? What truth are you avoiding right now? Now we're going to hush. The client will probably have to think and reflect on, what am I hiding? What am I avoiding? What is this really meaning to me? So we're not gonna jump in. I'm not gonna ask additional questions. I'm gonna hold a few seconds for them to kind of process that question because it's a deep reflective question, right? And so
Right.
again, it ties back into one, silence, but also coaching the whole person because now I'm holding space for them to tune into their inner thoughts, their inner being as it relates to what they're trying to achieve in their agenda.
Yes, part of giving them a chance to actually work through their questions or work through the issue at hand. Because a lot of times, what you need is that other person. Because how many times have me and you talked, and just in the middle of talking, we're talking through something, and it'd be like, I just figured this whole thing out. Like, oh, okay, I just needed to talk this
Mhm.
out. And that is part of what coaching is. Sometimes a lot of times you may just need to be that ear or just give those few pushes to somebody to help them get through a specific issue or come to a resolution themselves.
Exactly. And isn't that the underlying tone of coaching the person in the first place? Because if you focus on the problem, what awareness are you evoking? What creativity are you allowing the client to determine? Because the idea also from coaching is growth and
Right.
development. So whatever comes through in the coaching session, the client is able to take that and apply it to other parts of their life. And so if you coach the person, they learn more about themselves. They learn more about their needs, their wants, and why is this agenda even important in the first place? That's really gold. That's the
Hmm.
gold to the coaching piece. And that's why our job is not to go in and try to fix anything. We don't need to solve or fix. We just need to hold space for the person. So that's probably a great spot to end. As always, I want to thank everybody for joining. Please feel free to share your comments, give us a like, follow, subscribe wherever you're listening and taking note. And if you have a question, a topic, please let us know. If you like to be on the show, let us know. We'd like to include you. If you want to do some coaching demos, we can absolutely do some demos and have you join us in a future session. Please follow me and Coach Will on social media, on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. We're there. If you're there, we're probably there. All right, you guys, go out there, create awesome sauce for yourself and others. And thank you, as always, for joining us for Real Talk for Coaches.
Have a good day, everyone.